Finn, me, my mom, and my dad, Tom. Dreams of a home we could call our own were often dinner table talk, but that was before everything went south. Then, it happened. My mom passed away. It was like our family's heart got ripped out, but it seemed like Dad's heart healed way too fast. Enter Sarah, the new woman in Dad's life. She moved in, bringing a storm with her. From day one, Sarah made it clear I wasn't part of her plan. "Dad, why does Sarah always mess with my stuff?" I asked one evening, trying to keep my voice steady. My clothes had been accidentally bleached, and my favorite dishes seemed to taste way too salty lately. "Amber, you gotta stop this nonsense." Dad's voice was harsh, a tone I wasn't used to before Sarah came into the picture. "Sarah's trying her best. You're imagining things." "But I'm not." I protested, but Dad's look told me to drop it. It was the same every time. My words against hers, and hers were the only ones he seemed to hear. Sarah had this way about her, making it look like she was the victim, always. "I don't know what you're talking about, Amber. Maybe you're just not used to someone else being in the house," she'd say with a fake concern that didn't fool me. But it sure fooled Dad. "I'm telling you, she's doing it on purpose." I'd cry out, but Dad wouldn't have any of it. "Enough, Amber. I won't hear another bad word against Sarah. You understand? You're the one causing trouble here. Keep it up, and there'll be consequences." He'd snap back, his patience with me wearing thin. It was like talking to a brick wall, only the brick wall used to tuck me in at night and read me stories. Things got so bad I thought about talking to Grandma about it, but I chickened out. She loved Dad so much, and telling her how he was acting now, how he was choosing Sarah over me, it'd break her heart. So, I kept it all inside, hoping maybe it'd get better, that Dad would see through Sarah's act. But it never happened. Sarah's little accidents became my daily dread. Clothes ruined, food spoiled, and the smallest of my complaints turned into World War III at home. "Dad, my jeans are ruined, look." I showed him one day, holding up a pair of jeans that looked like they'd had a one-on-one with a bottle of bleach. "Looks like you're not taking care of your things, Amber. Maybe if you were more responsible, these things wouldn't happen." Dad dismissed it like it was nothing, Sarah smirking over his shoulder. It was a losing battle, talking to him. My words bounced off him like they were nothing. It hurt, you know? Realizing that the superhero dad I grew up admiring was now firmly on the villain's side. My complaints, my feelings, they meant nothing to him anymore. Sarah had twisted our world around her finger, and I was the only one who seemed to see it. That's how it began, the story of my shattered family. A tale of loss, not just of my mom, but of the father I thought I knew. It's a story I never thought I'd have to tell, but here we are. And trust me, it's only the beginning. Living with Dad and Sarah was like being stuck in a never-ending nightmare. From the moment Sarah stepped into our lives, things took a turn for the worse. But it wasn't just the constant belittling and sabotage that got to me. It was Dad's blind loyalty to her, no matter what. I learned pretty quickly that complaining to Dad was about as useful as talking to a brick wall. Every time I brought up Sarah's antics, he'd brush it off like it was nothing, or worse, accuse me of making things up. "Stop trying to cause trouble, Amber," he'd snap, his voice like ice. So, I learned to keep my mouth shut and bear the brunt of Sarah's cruelty alone. But it wasn't easy, not when every day felt like a battle just to survive in my own home. The only reprieve came when Grandma came to visit. She lived in another city, so her visits were rare, but cherished. Whenever she was around, Sarah turned into a whole different person. Suddenly, she was all smiles, cooking up a storm and dressing me in the fanciest clothes, like I was some kind of princess. It made my stomach churn, seeing her act all sweet when I knew the truth. "Isn't Sarah just the sweetest thing?" Grandma would coo, her eyes sparkling with affection. I'd force a smile, nodding along even though I felt sick to my stomach. "Yeah, she's something all right," I'd mumble, trying to ignore the knot of resentment building in my chest. But behind Grandma's back, Sarah was a whole different story. She'd go from sugar sweet to ice cold in the blink of an eye, her words like daggers aimed straight at my heart. And Dad? He was none the wiser, too blinded by Sarah's charms to see the truth. "Here, Tom, I brought some money for Amber," Grandma would say, handing Dad an envelope stuffed with cash. But guess who never saw a penny of it? That's right, yours truly. Dad and Sarah would pocket the money faster than you could say greedy, spending it on themselves, while I scraped by with whatever scraps they threw my way. And Sarah's cruelty only got worse with time. When Dad wasn't looking, she'd lay into me, leaving bruises hidden under long sleeves and forced smiles. I became an expert at covering up the evidence, hiding the marks with clothes and makeup like it was second nature. "Why do you always wear long sleeves, Amber?" Dad asked one day, eyeing me suspiciously over the breakfast table. "Just like the look, Dad." I lied through my teeth, praying he'd buy it. He grunted in response, turning back to his newspaper without another word. But I could feel the weight of his disappointment, like a lead balloon in the pit of my stomach. The days dragged on like a slow-motion train wreck, each one worse than the last. Sarah's cruel jabs and Dad's blind eye left me feeling like I was drowning in a sea of despair. But little did I know, the turning point was lurking just around the corner, ready to shake things up in ways I never imagined. It was a scorching afternoon, the kind where even the air felt heavy with heat. I sat in my desk at school, trying to focus on the lesson, while hiding the bruises Sarah had left on my arms. But Mrs. Thompson wasn't one to let things slide. "Amber, why are you wearing long sleeves in this heat?" she asked, her brow furrowed with concern. I shifted uncomfortably in my seat, scrambling for an excuse. I got cold last night," I mumbled, hoping she wouldn't press the issue. But Mrs. Thompson wasn't buying it, not for a second. "Amber, I can see the bruises. You can't keep covering for whoever's hurting you. You need to speak up." My heart hammered in my chest as I searched for a response. But before I could say anything, Mrs. Thompson was already picking up the phone, dialing Dad's number with a determined look in her eye. The tension in the room was palpable as Mrs. Thompson explained the situation to Dad, her voice firm and unwavering. I held my breath, waiting for his reaction. And then, like a whirlwind, Dad stormed into the school, his face twisted with anger. "What the hell is going on, Amber?" he demanded, his voice echoing through the hallway. I tried to explain, to make him see the truth, but he wouldn't listen. Instead, he grabbed me roughly by the arm and dragged me out of the school, his grip like a vice. We drove home in silence, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. When we finally arrived, Sarah was waiting for us, her expression a mix of curiosity and disdain. Well, what do we have here?" she sneered, her eyes flicking over me with disdain. Dad didn't waste any time. He launched into a tirade, accusing me of embarrassing him and making up lies about our family. I tried to defend myself, to make him understand, but it was like talking to a brick wall. "You're a disgrace, Amber," he spat, his words like a slap in the face. Alone in my room, tears streaming down my cheeks, I realized something. I couldn't rely on them anymore. I had to stand up for myself, to find the strength to break free from their toxic grasp. After a few hours of me being locked away in my room, Dad came knocking, his tone unusually calm but still laced with a cold sternness. "Amber, we need to talk. Now." I hesitated but knew better than to keep him waiting. Dragging myself out of bed, I found Sarah and Dad sitting at the dining table, their expressions stern and unwelcoming. "Sit down," Dad commanded, pointing to the empty chair opposite them. I obeyed, my heart sinking, as I prepared myself for whatever was coming next. Dad cleared his throat, his gaze fixed on me like I was some sort of defendant in court. "Your stepmom and I have been talking. We're sick and tired of your stories and accusations. It's got to stop, Amber." Sarah chimed in, her voice dripping with fake concern. "We only want what's best for you, dear. But spreading lies and trying to tear this family apart is not the way." Dad's voice hardened. "If you keep this up, telling these tall